Rain hammered the streets of Seattle on a chilly March evening in 2025, casting a gray veil over the city's glowing skyline. Inside Redwood Grill, a bustling downtown gem, the air buzzed with the clink of glasses and the hum of conversation. The place was a masterpiece of warm wooden paneling and soft amber lighting, a testament to Nathan Carver's two-decade reign as its CEO. At 45, Nathan was the picture of success: salt and pepper hair, sharp jawline, and a confidence that filled the room. He'd turned Redwood Grill into a culinary icon, raking in millions and earning five-star Yelp reviews that could make any restaurateur jealous. But lately, something felt off. The numbers were solid, the staff smiled on cue, yet Nathan couldn't shake a gnawing unease, like he was drifting from the soul of the place he'd built from scratch. So, on this soggy Tuesday night, he ditched his tailored suits for a faded hoodie and a mariner's cap pulled low over his eyes. Just another guy looking for a burger, he told himself as he slipped through the front door, unnoticed by the dinner rush crowd. He settled into a small table near the bar, the scent of grilled steak and rosemary wafting around him. It was the perfect spot to watch, listen, and feel the pulse of his empire through a stranger's eyes. Nathan grabbed a laminated menu, pretending to scan the options he'd memorized years ago, when a sharp whisper sliced through the noise. "He's gotta pay for it," a young voice hissed from the booth behind him. "Mom said it's all his fault." Nathan's grip tightened on the menu. Another voice, softer but edged with anger, replied, "Yeah, but how do we even find him?" His heart thudded. Who were they talking about, and why did it feel so damn personal? The rain outside Redwood Grill had settled into a steady drizzle, streaking the windows with silver threads as Nathan Carver sat hunched over his menu, ears straining to catch the voices behind him. The warmth of the restaurant, its sizzling steaks and laughing patrons, had felt comforting just moments ago, but now it was a distant hum beneath the storm brewing in his chest. Those whispered words from the booth inched their way under his skin. He's gotta pay for it. He'd come here to reconnect, to feel the heartbeat of his empire through a stranger's eyes, but instead, he'd stumbled into something jagged and raw. The voices belonged to two girls, their tones sharp as broken glass, and Nathan couldn't shake the itch that he was the one they were hunting. They were young teenagers, he guessed, their words tumbling out in hushed bursts. The louder one, her voice crackling with barely contained fury, spat, "He's living it up in some penthouse worth millions, while Mom's stuck working 12-hour shifts just to keep our shitty 800-square-foot apartment." Nathan's stomach twisted. He knew Seattle's real estate game. A penthouse meant serious cash, the kind he'd earned pouring his soul into Redwood Grill. But the venom in her words wasn't abstract. It was personal, pointed, like a finger jabbing straight at him. The softer voice chimed in, hesitant but curious. "What if he's not even here, Layla? What if we're wrong?" Lila, the name landed like a stone. "We're not wrong," she snapped. "Mom said he's always here, strutting around like he owns the damn world. And he does." Nathan's mind raced, sifting through faces from his past. Employees, rivals, anyone who might harbor this kind of grudge. He'd fired people, sure. You didn't build a place like this without cracking a few eggs. But ruin someone's life? Push a family to the edge? That wasn't him. Or was it? He shifted in his seat, the mariner's cap casting a shadow over his face, and stole a glance toward the booth. Two girls, one with a tight ponytail and a glare that could melt steel, the other fidgeting with her hoodie strings, eyes darting nervously. Lila and who? Her sister, maybe. They didn't look like troublemakers, but trouble clung to them like damp clothes. Then came the moment that turned his blood cold. Lila stood, her chair scraping the hardwood floor, and reached into a small canvas bag slung over her shoulder. "If he's here tonight," she muttered, her voice low and lethal, "I'll make sure he remembers us." Nathan's breath hitched as something glinted in her hand. A folding knife, its blade catching the amber light for a split second before she tucked it back. His pulse hammered in his ears. This wasn't just anger. It was a reckoning. He gripped the table's edge, torn between bolting for the door and confronting them. Whoever they were after, this was no game. And deep down, A sickening certainty bloomed. They might just be after him. The drizzle outside Redwood Grill had thickened into a relentless curtain, drumming against the windows as if trying to drown out the chaos brewing inside Nathan Carver's head. He'd come here under the brim of a mariner's cap, seeking the pulse of his empire through a stranger's lens. But now he was trapped in a storm far uglier than the one soaking Seattle. The girls' voices, Lila's sharp as a blade, her sister's trembling like a leaf, had clawed into him, each word a hook tugging at buried doubts. That glint of a knife in Lila's hand still burned in his mind, a silent promise of violence humming beneath her rage. He couldn't just sit there, drowning in his own sweat, pretending the menu mattered. He had to know. Nathan turned, slow and deliberate, his voice cutting through the din of clinking plates. "Hey girls, you looking for someone? Everything okay?" The question hung like smoke, and Lila's head snapped up, her ponytail whipping like a warning. "Who the hell are you to butt in?" she snarled, eyes narrowing into slits of fire. Harper, the quieter one, tugged at her sleeve, whispering, "Lila, chill. What if it's not him?" But Lila shook her off, her gaze locking onto Nathan's face. Time stretched thin, the air crackling, until recognition flashed across her like lightning. "Oh my God," she breathed, then exploded. "You're Nathan Carver. Don't you dare play dumb with me." Harper gasped, tears spilling as she shrank back, while Lila lunged forward, the knife trembling in her fist. "You wrecked my family." The restaurant blurred, plates of steak and rosemary faded into static as her words hit like a freight train. "You think you're some big shot, huh?" Lila's voice broke, raw and ragged. "Mom came up with that honey-glazed rib recipe, the one plastered all over your damn ads. She poured her heart into this place and you fired her like trash. Spread lies that she was a thief so no one would hire her. 15 years, Carver. 15 years of Mom crying herself to sleep, us crashing in a rusted Chevy when the rent ran dry. You ever slept on a back seat in the dead of winter?" Nathan's mouth went dry, his defense feeble against her fury. "I didn't mean, I never wanted to hurt anyone." But even as he stammered, memories flickered. A tense meeting, a rash decision to handle a pushy manager. Whispers he'd ignored. Lila's knife wavered, tears streaking her face, her voice a guttural scream. "You don't get it. She was amazing and you crushed her. Crushed us." Harper sobbed louder, clutching her sister's arm, a fragile anchor in the tempest. Nathan's chest caved under the weight of her truth. He'd built Redwood Grill on ambition, but had he paved it with someone else's ruin? The knife glinted, a mirror to his guilt, and he knew this was no longer about stakes or stars. It was Judgment Day. The rain had softened into a mournful patter by the time Nathan Carver stepped away from the chaos of Redwood Grill, his mariner's cap still clinging damply to his head. The confrontation with Lila and Harper had left him hollow, their words, sharp as that glinting knife, carving open a past he'd buried under layers of success. He'd come to his restaurant seeking its soul, a stranger in his own kingdom, only to find himself staring into a mirror of guilt. Lila's scream still echoed in his skull. "You crushed her. Crushed us." Her mother, Elise Grayson, was no longer just a name from a faded payroll. She was the ghost of his ambition, and Nathan couldn't run from her anymore. He'd convinced the girls to take him to her, their reluctant guide through a city that suddenly felt foreign. 5 miles from Redwood Grill's polished glow, they reached a crumbling apartment block, its cracked concrete steps glistening under a flickering streetlight. Lila shoved open a door, her glare daring him to flinch, while Harper trailed behind, eyes red and wary. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and cheap coffee, a stark contrast to the rosemary-scented haven Nathan had built. Elise Grayson stood there, a shadow of the vibrant manager he vaguely recalled, her frame gaunt, her dark hair streaked with gray, her eyes simmering with a quiet, bitter fire. "Well, look who it is," she sneered, crossing her arms. "Come to gloat, Carver? See how far I've fallen?" Nathan swallowed, the weight of her stare heavier than Lila's knife. "I'm here to understand, Elise. What happened? What I did?" Her laugh was a jagged thing, slicing through the room. "Understand? You don't get to play innocent now. That honey-glazed rib recipe, the one that put your name on every foodie's lips, Mine. I begged you to give me credit, just a sliver of what I deserved, and you tossed me out like yesterday's trash. Then your cronies spread rumors I'd skimmed the till. 15 years, Nathan. 15 years of doors slamming in my face, of scraping by in this 600 square foot hellhole while you sipped champagne in your high-rise. Her voice cracked, rage giving way to something raw, pain. Nathan's knees buckled as flashes of memory surfaced, a heated argument, a curt order to deal with her, a choice to look the other way. I didn't know, he rasped, but Elise cut him off, stepping closer. Ignorance isn't absolution, you bastard. You didn't care enough to know. The room spun, Lila and Harper watching from the shadows like silent jurors. Nathan's empire, his pride, crumbled in the face of Elise's truth. He'd built Redwood Grill on her bones, and the cost was staring him down. A woman broken, a family scarred. Tell me how to fix this, he pleaded, voice trembling. Elise's eyes narrowed, her silence louder than the rain tapping at the window, a verdict still unwritten. The rain had dwindled to a faint whisper against Seattle's skyline as Nathan Carver stood outside Redwood Grill a month later, the glow of its amber lights now tinged with something humbler. That soggy night he'd slipped in under a mariner's cap, chasing the soul of his empire, had unraveled him. Lila's knife-edge fury, Harper's tearful pleas, and Elise's haunting truth peeling back the veneer of his success. He'd seen the wreckage in that mildew-stained apartment, Elise's words a sledgehammer. Ignorance isn't absolution. But from the ashes of that reckoning, Nathan fought to rebuild. Kneeling before her, he'd begged for a chance to mend the past, offering Elise a stake as co-owner of Redwood Grill, her name on every menu, and $100,000 to lift her from the shadows he'd cast. Elise's first answer was a cold laugh, her eyes blazing. You think cash erases 15 years? She'd spat, Lila nodding fiercely beside her. But Harper's soft voice, Mom, let him try, cracked the ice. Weeks later, she stepped back into the kitchen, her apron a quiet crown, commanding the stoves with a fire Nathan had forgotten she possessed. The staff whispered her legend. The honey-glazed ribs now billed as Elise's original, and critics raved about the reborn Redwood Grill. Nathan watched from the sidelines, lighter but not absolved, knowing trust was a slow bloom. One night, Lila and Harper sat near the bar, their guarded smiles a fragile truce. You're not off the hook, Lila warned, but her tone softened as Elise laughed with a line cook, free in her element. Nathan nodded, raindrops glistening on the windows like tears of a city forgiving itself. Redemption wasn't a finish line, it was this, a messy, honest start. The journey of Nathan Carver in Shadows of Success is a raw reminder that triumph can cast long shadows. Building an empire like Redwood Grill, Nathan chased glory but lost sight of the people who fueled it, until Elise's pain and her daughter's rage forced him to face the mirror. The first lesson here is accountability. Success doesn't excuse the harm we cause, intentional or not. Ignoring the fallout of our choices, like Nathan did with Elise, doesn't erase it. It festers, waiting to confront us. Life demands we own our mistakes, not just for others, but to find peace within ourselves. Another takeaway is the power of redemption. Nathan didn't rewrite the past, but he offered Elise a voice, a chance to reclaim her worth. It's a nudge for us all. When we've wronged someone, action beats apologies. Listen, repair, and give back what's due, even if it stings. Finally, the story whispers a truth about ambition. Chase it, but not at the cost of others' dreams. In today's grind, whether it's climbing the corporate ladder or hustling a side gig, pause to lift those around you. Success shines brighter when it's shared, not stolen. Thank you for watching the video. Please comment with number 1 to let me know you have watched the whole video. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to always receive new videos as soon as possible.